always ask people, what do you think the most unpredictable part of walking the bush for me, and maybe a lot of walking guys, is not the animals. We understand animals, we know what they do, we know what we can expect from them. It's the people we're walking with. And the idea is that the people that are walking, you need to, get them into a place where they are comfortable and they trust the guides. And then, like you said, yes, when that one off the chance happens, you need guides. You need to, as a guide, and guides who are confident to be able to step into that dangerous situation and diffuse it. My first elephant encounter, and probably the only one that I thought I was going to die. Madikwe 2003. I'd been a qualified Fagasa guide for 2 weeks, and I got my job in Madikwe, and I wasn't driving it's a vehicle-based story, but it's very interesting. I'd just become a level 1 guide at that time, or what we call now apprentice guide. Sitting shotgun with the Madikwe map in my hands, and Andrew, my friend, he was driving the vehicle as the guide, and we had a group of Americans on the back. And we had a relatively quiet drive. It wasn't, spectacular. We hadn't seen too much birds here and there, and I think everyone's getting a bit bored. We came around the corner on one of the roads, and we had a herd of elephants about 100 meters down the road, and there was a brand new baby just there sitting. And you could see the mother head came up, and Andrew turned the engine off, and we looked at the elephants. I thought, this is fine. This is quite nice. The elephant shook her head, and then she came down the road. So the elephant's running from 100 meters. I'm quite junior doggy. I'm thinking, this is going to stop. She's going to stop. She's not stopping. Anyway, I looked at Andrew, and Andrew just looked at this, and he just starts to bang on the door. When a door makes quite a nice hollow booming sound. So I just copied him and did the same thing. Both hit the door and boom, boom, boom. And then she pulled up in the car and stood over us. And I remember watching the dust flow past it. It was winter, and it flowed past and just settling on us. Anyway, and then she turned around and moved off. And it was just a general. I had a sort of, that was fun. It was exciting, but it wasn't dangerous in that way. And she walked 15 meters away, and that elephant looked at her calf, and she must have seen her calf, and she realized we were still there, and something in her head said, I don't like this, and she spun around. When I say spin around, an elephant can pirouette. I can assure you they can. And she turned on us. The head went down, the trunk went into the chest, and then I looked at this and I was like, wow, this doesn't look good. And then she plowed into the front of the vehicle. Land Cruiser had a tracker seat on. Thank God there was no tracker. Put a tusk into it and just tore it off the front, tossed it into the bush, and then came right over the front of the Land Cruiser. Tusk went into the windscreen in front of me. Other tusk came underneath the side mirror. I'm looking at this, and I put my feet into the dashboard, and I push myself into the seat, because I'm thinking to myself, if I do this, she can't get me out. But now she's right over the front of me, and she's on top of me. If I was brave enough, I could have done that and touched her head. I wasn't that brave. I remember I turned to Andrew, and this thing, I've only admitted this 10 years after the fact. I turned to Andrew and I went, which I tried to say reverse. I didn't have to. Andrew had yanked this car in reverse, and he had put the foot down, and we were flying backwards. The road was windy, so we weren't on the road very long, and we were just hitting trees. Madikwe had poisoned some sickle bush, and the ship was breaking and flying over the car. And I think the fact that we were reversing at such high speed, and this destruction we were creating, and noise of the trees breaking, going over and she stopped the attack on the vehicle. And then we had 3 or 4 female elephants in a semicircle around the car, looking at us, ears out. And I'm looking at this thinking, bloody hell, we're in shit here. Anyway, Andrew by then has time to take the rifle down, load it, and he puts it on his lap, and he's waiting. And I'm looking at this and thinking, this is bad. This elephant's going to die. And then whatever happened, the elephants just grouped up, and they looked at us, and they just turned around and all took that baby away into the bushes. All right. So after this event, maybe split seconds, who knows, not even a minute, I remember my adrenaline is going full speed, and the guests go, oh my God, that was awesome. Let's do that again. And I was like, what? I can't believe what they've just heard. And they said, Mike, take a picture of the car. I couldn't hold the camera. My hands were just on this full shake. Andrew at this stage was composed, getting on the radio, calling in for help, all that type of stuff. I don't know how long we waited, but help arrived. We loaded onto the vehicle. All then went back to the lodge. Andrew then went and secluded himself in the office. He needed to go decompress, because obviously his adrenaline was up as well, but he was the guide. So he was sort of feeling, and he went and I was instructed to take the guests back to the rooms. People always say, were you afraid? Yes, I was afraid. If you're not afraid, there's something wrong with you. Has it deterred me? Not a chance, If anything, all it did was, I actually thankful for it. Just 2 weeks as a guide in my second week as a guide, I had that happen to me. And why am I grateful for that? Because it made me realize we're in an environment that anything can change on a dime, and you're not always in control of the situation, but you've got to be prepared and be observant. This is the biggest thing. I can go anywhere near an elephant, and I'm not an elephant whisperer, I'm not an elephant expert, but I can watch elephants, and I'll tell you if I'm not happy, and I will not even get anywhere near them. I can and any other animal, it makes you focus, and animals are talking to you all the time. They're communicating to you, whether you're noticing or not. And as a guide, you need to be able to read the signs. But it definitely didn't deter me. If anything, it made me appreciate where I was more and realize that these animals that we're in the environment, we got to respect them and listen to them as well. So it's a two-way thing, you know. So
yeah, and you still decided to become a trails guide after that. On foot, don't you feel more vulnerable on foot?
No, I don't necessarily think so. I probably felt more vulnerable sitting next to Andrew. He was in the driver's seat. I wasn't in control. I think on foot, it's not more vulnerable. You just have to be more in tune, you know. Yeah, I think there is always risk. There's always potential for risk, but it's always whenever I have guests and we talk about this, I always tell them you're in more danger getting in a motor car and driving anywhere than you are in the bush. Animals are forgiving. Okay. But what experience I guess is, you know, over time it's just built my knowledge of wildlife behavior and situational awareness, you know. And so you'll be and your intuition and that little voice, you know, the soft skills, as it were, or have grown more. I think when you become a trails guide, your hard skills are focused on. I think you learn how to shoot, and you write your tests, and you know all this sort of stuff that's quantifiable, and then with my experience, the softer skills, intuition has grown. You know, the ability to sort of, you know, predict situations rather than put yourself in situations. And then over the years, I've obviously been walking. It's not only what the animals are teaching; it's also your human people management skills have improved dramatically as the more you're in a situation. Because as a young guide, you pander more to your guests, and you want to make sure they're happy. And then you after time you realize, hang on, there has to be a better balance in this. You know, it's not always what your guests. You have to also be what is the security. You know, as a young guide, you might feel pressure. Got to get up and see that animal. People might not actually be giving the pressure. It's your imagined pressure that you put on yourself. Especially as a tourist guide, you feel like you are supposed to be doing these things, but it's actually no. We need to sort of maybe make the focus not necessarily only about the sighting. It's about the whole experience.
Yeah, and that's kind of filters through to just keeping people safe out in an environment that many people perceive to be very dangerous.
Because when something like this happens to a person that is not used to it, you know, they are not necessarily in control of what they do, because they will react out of a fear reaction, which is counterproductive, and it might be, you know, counterintuitive to as a guide, but it's what they feel. So I think people management is one of the best skills you can learn, and anybody, you know, especially young guys, it's a great skill that you can take into other parts of your career path, be it management or be it anything you do. You know, it's how you deal with people in a way that keeps them confident and sort of, you know, going with you as a team, I guess.
Yeah, that's an awesome note to finish on, Mike. 20 years in the bush and continuing to do it. I don't ever see you leaving, hey, in terms of
I do. Sometimes I think, because I'm from Johannesburg, I wonder what it's like to live in Joburg and go there for 3 minutes. I'm like, no, I don't think this is ever happening again. Wherever I'm in the world, it'll be somewhere in nature, you know, fighting the good fight, I guess. Yeah, having fun.
Awesome.